millionaire can't forget the mysterious stranger he invited to dinner after just 3 days. James Carlton stood by the towering windows of his penthouse, the city skyline glowing beneath the early autumn dusk. The air inside was cool, sleek, luxury wrapped in silence. Yet beneath that polished surface, an uneasy buzz hummed in his chest. 3 days, just 3 days since that strange night at the gala. 3 days since he invited a shadow into his world. The stranger, the one with the unreadable smile and eyes like they hid storms, walked into his life like a ghost. No one knew who they were. Not really. At the charity event, murmurs swirled around James like wildfire. "Who is that? Some sort of spy?" whispered a fellow guest, eyes darting back and forth. Others just stared, frozen by that strange aura. James had found himself unable to stop thinking about the stranger's cryptic warnings during their dinner. Phrases like "not all masks fall" and "watch the mirrors." Not everyone reflects truth. Words that felt like cold knives pressing against the smooth glass of his carefully guarded life. Then, yesterday morning, he saw it, at his doorstep, wrapped in black velvet, with no tag, an untraceable gift. His fingers trembled as he lifted the fabric to reveal a small antique key. Old, heavy, unfamiliar. There were no notes, no explanations, just the key, a riddle disguised as a present. He tried to trace it. Nothing. No hallmark. No origin. It was as if it appeared out of thin air, like a warning sent straight to his soul. James's thoughts spiraled. Could this stranger know something? Something dangerous? Someone who threatened not just his empire, but his very sense of reality? The city's distant honks and sirens seemed louder now, almost accusing. His pulse hammered in his ears, tight and urgent. At dinner, that eerie calm the stranger carried, like they were untouchable, still haunted him. Their voice barely above a whisper, but heavy with weight. The surface hides cracks, and cracks sometimes swallow everything. The room seemed colder that night, the city lights outside blinking like distant watchmen. James had wanted to dismiss it, to laugh it off, but he couldn't. Now, standing alone against the dark window, James clenched his jaw. The penthouse felt less like a fortress and more like a cage. Who was this stranger? What game had he been dragged into? He could feel eyes in the shadows. A message. No name. No sender. Just one line flashing on the screen. Not everything is as it seems. Beware who you trust. A chill ripped through him. His breath hitched. This was no ordinary challenge. Somewhere inside, a knot of fear twisted tighter. The polished world he built so carefully was cracking. And behind that crack, something dark. Something waiting. James stared out over the city again, heartbeat hammering like a warning drum. The mysterious stranger was now more than a puzzle. He was a threat, a secret, maybe a curse, and James couldn't look away. "Hey, Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. James's thumbs trembled as he stared at the message glowing on his phone. Not everything is as it seems. Beware who you trust. The city breathed beneath him, cold and vast, its lights sharp like needles in the dark. That key still felt heavy in his palm, a silent riddle he couldn't crack, twisting his thoughts into knots. He shut the curtains against the night. The penthouse was no longer a place of comfort. It was a cage, closing in, tightening. Who could it be now? He crossed the room, each step heavy with dread. With a flick, the door swung open. No stranger, no shadow dressed in black. Instead, standing before him, pale and wide-eyed, was Claire. Claire, his wife, the woman who had vanished 2 years ago without a trace. The woman he mourned and finally accepted as gone. But here she was, alive, breathing, shaking. "T. James, I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. His mouth went dry. The room spun. "Claire, how is this possible? Where have you been?" She took a step in, trembling hands clutching a crumpled envelope. "Every day, I watched you from the shadows," she said, voice like a cracked whisper. "The gala? The stranger? It wasn't a stranger at all." James felt the blood drain from his face. "What are you talking about?" She swallowed hard, eyes darting like frightened birds. "That stranger? It was me." Silence crushed the space between them. No warning, no preamble. 2 years. I was trapped. Claire's voice cracked. Behind a lie. Behind a mask. James's chest tightened. His legs felt weak. "But the key," he said, voice hollow. "The gift. You sent it?" "I had to," she said, voice trembling faster. "To warn you. Someone else is watching. Someone who knows what happened, what I did, and they're still out there." His head pounded. The smooth line of his carefully built world shattered like glass beneath a hammer. "Claire," he whispered, "why didn't you come straight to me?" Her eyes burned with something darker than fear. "Because," she said, voice dropping, "I'm not safe, not even with you, and I'm not who you think I am." James staggered back, heart hammering like a war drum. "Who are you?" The question felt too small, swallowed by the cavernous fear in his chest. "I'm the reason your empire is cracking." Her words hung in the air like poison. Then his phone buzzed again. A new message, this time with a photo attached. His blood froze as he stared at the grainy image. Himself, shaking hands with a man beneath a dim streetlight. And behind that man, Claire, but she was smiling. Not the frightened woman in front of him. Smiling like a conspirator. The message blinked beneath the photo. "You don't know the whole story, James, but I do." James's hands went numb. His breath hitched hard. The woman he thought was lost, the stranger he feared, was both. And everything he'd believed was a lie. His world was bleeding out beneath the city lights. And now he had to ask himself, who was the real enemy? The city outside kept ticking, the night swallowing secrets deeper. James slammed the door. The key burned hot in his pocket, and the question clawed through his mind. Was Claire his salvation or his doom? James slammed the door. The key burned hot in his pocket. His hands shook, breath caught in his throat. Claire's words echoed, twisting sharp inside his chest. "I'm the reason your empire is cracking." He backed away, heart pounding like a hammer on steel. The apartment felt smaller now, suffocating. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent and cold. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the silence. Glass exploded on the floor with a spray of jagged light. James whipped his head toward the broken window. A figure stood, silhouetted against the city lights. Tall, solid, no mask this time, just bare face and cold eyes. James froze, unable to move. Claire gasped behind him, then slammed into him, clutching his arm so hard her nails bit skin. Her wide eyes were wild with fear. "Get down!" she hissed, but it was too late. A gunshot split the air. James dove toward the sofa, the impact shaking the room. Wind howled through the shattered window. Glass littered the floor like dangerous stars. More shots followed, rapid, relentless, pinging off walls, smashing lamps. Claire collapsed beside him, trembling. "They're here," she whispered. "They've always been here." James's mind scrambled. Who? Why now? His world spun upside down, fear like ice running straight to his bones. He risked a glance toward the intruder, stepping inside. The man, no, the stranger, lowered his gun with a slow, cruel smile. "You thought you could hide, James," the voice said, sharp, quiet. "But the game's over." James clenched his fists, feeling every second stretch. Then the stranger's eyes locked on Claire. "Funny," he said, voice twisting. "You never told him the truth, did you?" Claire's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. The stranger pulled out a folded photo. He unfolded it slowly, showing James, a younger man, hugging another woman James had never seen before. "Who is she?" James demanded, voice cracking. The stranger smiled colder. "Your real wife." James's jaw dropped. His breath stalled. "What?" Claire looked away, biting her lip as if the truth itself was poison. The stranger's words slithered into the room. "Claire's not who she says. She never was. And the key? A message from me, to you, to warn you that everything you thought was real was a lie. Your empire, built on shadows." James stumbled backward, heart in flames. "I'm done playing," the stranger said, cocking the gun again. Suddenly Claire leapt forward, her eyes blazing, and slammed full force into the stranger. They crashed into the broken glass, struggling, tearing, gasping. James's breath hitched, caught between fear and disbelief. Then Claire's voice, sharp, fierce, cut through the chaos. "I'm not the victim. I'm the puppeteer." The stranger froze. James stared, shaking, mind fracturing. Claire's hands trembled as she pulled away, holding a new object in her palm. A small, blinking device. "This isn't about protection," she said softly. "It's control." Before James could speak, the device emitted a low pulse. Power flickered. Lights dimmed. The city outside went dark. All except one window in a distant building, glowing red like a warning beacon. James's blood ran cold. The stranger stopped struggling, a look of pure terror cracking his mask. You were the danger all along," James gasped, staring at Claire. She smiled, not the scared woman from before, but something sharper, something darker. "I told you," she whispered, eyes gleaming in the dark. "Who do you really trust, James?" The gun fell from the stranger's hand, and the night swallowed them whole. James's world had shattered, but now the nightmare was only beginning. The key burned hotter than ever in his pocket, and the real question screamed in the silence. What had he invited inside his life? James' breath hitched as Claire's fierce smile cut through the dark. The gun dropped from the stranger's hand, clattering to the floor. The room went silent. The city's heartbeat outside seemed to pause, holding its breath. And then, a loud beep echoed from the small blinking device in Claire's hand. She froze, eyes wide. Her fingers fumbled, then dropped it. It skidded across the floor and stopped near James's trembling foot. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on. The city thrummed into life again. James bent down, heart hammering. He picked up the device, then froze as the screen lit up with a grainy live video feed. The camera wasn't inside the room. It was outside. Outside the penthouse, outside the building. The view showed a narrow alley below. Shadows moved in the darkness. Voices whispered. Then, the silhouette of a man appeared in the frame. Not the stranger. Not James. The man held something. A small bundle wrapped in white. The camera zoomed in. James's blood ran cold. He recognized the face from the photo the stranger had shown him. The other woman. But this wasn't a photo. It was real. Alive. And the bundle, he forced himself to look, was a baby. A baby crying weakly. "Stop!" Claire's voice cracked, breaking the terrible calm. James looked up at her, confusion and dread swirling inside. "Who is that? Why?" Before she could answer, the feed changed. The screen blinked. Then a new message appeared in bold, red letters. "Not your child." James's chest tightened, as if a fist gripped his ribs. "No," Claire whispered. "You don't understand." But the screen kept flashing images. Snapshots from hidden cameras. Old videos. Memories from a past James never knew. Women. More than one. Secret meetings. Exchanged envelopes. Erased faces. And then a final image. James himself, older, shaking hands with the same man from before. Only now, the man was wearing Claire's face. The room shattered beneath him. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "It's not what you think." James shook his head, voice cracking. Who are you?" Her lips trembled. "I'm not just the puppeteer. I'm them." And then, suddenly her body convulsed. She collapsed, clutching her chest. James lunged forward. "Claire, what's happening?" She gasped, voice barely a whisper. "Too long, I've been hiding this secret." From inside her coat, a hidden mechanical whirring started. She tore open the lapel, revealing beneath her skin a gleaming line of metal, cold and shining under the flickering lights. "Claire, what?" Her eyes flickered, human pain twisting into something else. "I'm no one you knew." "Not really." A sharp, chilling smile stretched across her lips. "I'm the key, the virus." James stumbled backward, panic flooding every nerve. And at that moment, the door behind them blew off its hinges. A dozen dark figures flooded the room, masked, armed, moving like shadows. And over the chaos, a cold, familiar voice laughed. "This game has only just begun, James." He looked back at Claire, her face breaking between the last flickers of humanity and something cold, inhuman. His world didn't just crack. It shattered beyond repair. And suddenly, he wasn't sure if the enemy had ever been outside, or if it had been inside him all along. James stumbled back, his chest tight with panic, as masked figures spilled into the room like a dark flood. Claire's face flickered between human and something else, cold metal glinting beneath her skin. The air was thick with terror, sharp breaths, whispered warnings. Then silence. The chaos froze. The laughter stopped. Suddenly, the blinking device in James's hand flared bright. A harsh noise, like a scream caught in a machine, tore through the quiet. And the room distorted. Walls wobbled. The city outside fragmented into flickering shards like broken glass. James's heart slammed against his ribs. He gripped the device tighter. It wasn't just a camera. It was a switch. A trigger. Claire's eyes widened, panic mixing with something raw, sorrowful, as the ground beneath them seemed to bend. Light collapsed in waves. Then, everything reset. James blinked. His throat went dry. The room was empty. No masked men. No shattered glass. No mechanical glint beneath Claire's skin. Because there was no Claire. Only himself alone, in a room bathed in harsh fluorescent light. He blinked again. This wasn't his penthouse. This was a small, cold cell. A camera nestled in the corner, zeroed in on his face. The blinking device was gone. His hands trembled on the cold steel table before him. The door clanged open. A woman stepped inside. Not Claire, not the stranger, but someone older. Her eyes held a cold fire, and her voice was calm, clinical, Good. You're awake, she said. James's breath caught. Where am I? He croaked. Safe, she said. For now. She clicked a remote. A screen behind her flickered to life. Images of James filled the screen. Past moments, private scenes, secret meetings. But then it twisted. Photos of James smiling, holding hands with her. The woman in the image wasn't Claire. It was the stranger, the one who warned him. Standing beside her was a younger James. Different, smiling, whole. The woman turned, lips curling into a sinister smile. You thought you knew the story, she said, voice low. But everything you believed. The screen flickered and revealed one final image. A baby, wrapped in white, sleeping peacefully. But the photo wasn't of a child. It was a memory, a manufactured memory. The woman's smile cut deep, sharper than steel. I'm not them, she whispered close to James's ear. I'm you. The harsh lights flickered again. James's breath hitched. Reality cracked like a breaking mirror. He blinked, and suddenly, he wasn't James. He was the stranger, the mask, the puppeteer, the virus, all at once, and the screaming truth crushed him. He'd never been the victim. He was the one who disappeared, the one who watched, the one who waited. James's mind tore apart in shards. The woman's voice was the last thing he heard before the door slammed shut. Now you remember. Now the game begins. And in the silence that followed, James realized the enemy had never been outside. It had always been inside him. But how deep the lie go? Who was real? Who was puppet? And how much time did he have left before he lost himself completely? James's breath hitched as the cold woman's words echoed in the sterile room. Now you remember. Now the game begins. His mind spun, shattering like glass under the weight of truth. I am the enemy, the puppeteer, the virus. He barely had time to process the horror when the lights flickered violently. The screens behind the woman exploded into static. Then a harsh, mechanical scream pierced the room. The cold walls trembled as the floor beneath James rumbled. Panic surged, muscles tensing, heart pounding in a brutal rhythm. His hands fisted the edge of the table, nails digging into cold steel. Suddenly, the door burst open. Not guards this time, not masked figures, but a man, familiar, ragged, burning through the flickering light with fierce, wild eyes. James, wake up, the man shouted, reaching for him. The woman's face twisted in fury as the man lunged forward. Who the hell? She snarled, but before she finished, the room tilted sideways. James's vision blurred. He blinked, and the walls vanished. He was somewhere else, somewhere cold, dark, hollow. Breath echoed sharply in the black. The man grabbed his arm tight. You're slipping away. Come back with me. James's lips trembled. Where? His voice barely a whisper, cracked and fragile. The man's grip didn't loosen. Not here. Not now. Suddenly, a sharp click sounded behind them. James spun around. The woman from before stood framed in a ring of firelight, her eyes ablaze, a new, terrible smile curling her lips. But there was something else, something deeper in her stare. "I let you go," she said softly, voice like ice mixed with flame. "For a purpose." Her hand flicked, and the darkness shattered into a blinding white light. Then, silence. James blinked through the glow, and he saw her, Claire, but not the Claire he'd known. Neither frightened, sorry woman nor machine beneath his skin. This Claire smiled with blood in her eyes. She stepped forward, light rippling off her like liquid silver. And then she whispered, voice sharp as glass shards, "You've been living inside my mind, James." His heart slammed. His knees buckled. Inside his chest, a voice screamed. "No, no, no!" But her words kept coming. The entire story. Your memories. Even this nightmare. James's hands shook violently. What are you saying?" "I'm the real James." The world cracked open again. "I'm the original." She smiled wider, almost kindly. "The cold woman in the cell, the stranger, the puppeteer, you were fragments." James's vision spun at a terrifying speed. "Your empire? A shell for what I buried deep. Your Claire? My creation to recruit you, to survive inside your shattered mind." Tears spilled, burning rivers down his face. "Why?" he choked out. "Because I was dying." Her voice dropped to a whisper, crushing. "This isn't just a game. It's a war for existence. And it's always been my fight." James staggered backward, breath faltering, chest bruised by truth. Behind her, the darkness throbbed with new life, shifting shapes he couldn't name. "Don't ask if this is real or not," she murmured, "because now you don't know where the lies end or where you begin." Suddenly, the cold woman as James reached out, grasping his face, and everything, fragments, faces, memories, collapsed into a single scream, a fracture tearing him apart. The last thing he heard before blankness swallowed him whole was her soft, deadly promise. "Welcome back to the real game." James didn't know how much time passed. When he opened his eyes again, his reflection was a stranger's face, and the question hung like smoke in the air. If he wasn't James anymore, who had he been? James's breath caught in his throat as the reflection blinked back, a stranger's sharp eyes, cold and empty. He pressed his palm against the glass, the surface ice cold, like it was holding him in place, trapping him inside someone else's nightmare. He tried to scream, but no sound came. His throat tightened, raw and dry, as if swallowed by a stone. Who was this man, and why did it feel like he was fading, melting beneath the weight of this stolen face? The door clicked open. The sea. "You finally see it, James," she whispered, voice sinking inside his chest like freezing water. Before he could speak, the lights flickered violently. The room trembled, as if breathing, or worse, about to break. Then, with a sudden jolt, the floor beneath him cracked open. James stumbled, arms flailing, but instead of falling, everything pulled him forward, like gravity twisted by a cruel hand. And then, the world shattered. The sterile cell dissolved into splinters of light. His eyes snapped open. He gasped. Sunlight, warm and heavy on his face. Birds chirped outside the window. He was lying on a soft wooden floor, sunbeams painting gold across scattered papers. The air smelled of fresh ink and old books. He sat up fast, heart hammering out of his chest. Around him, walls lined with photographs, dozens of them, pinned in messy rows. Faces, places, moments. He moved closer. His hand trembled as he reached for a photo hung front and center. It was Claire, smiling, real, alive. But something was off. A note was scribbled beneath. Client number 27, Project Immortality. James blinked, confusion twisting cold in his gut. A door creaked open behind him. He whipped around. Not the cold woman, not the stranger, only a man. Older, gentler, his eyes carrying a weight both familiar and strange. "James," the man said softly, "you're safe here, at least for now." "Where?" James swallowed, voice hoarse. "Where am I?" "In the archive," the man replied. "A place outside your reality, outside the game." James staggered, heart pounding louder with every beat. But the memories, the chaos. "Claire, the woman, the stranger, are not illusions," James hissed. The man nodded. "Yes, they're real. But your mind, your identity, it's fractured. Pieces of you are scattered across timelines, across lives." James gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady himself. Timelines? They hardly had time to speak more when, suddenly, a shadow stretched across the wall. A figure stepping silently into the room. James's breath hitched. The stranger, but not the one he remembered. This one's eyes were soft, almost pleading. "James," the man said, voice breaking. "You need to listen. I'm you, from another you, from before the fall." James stared, disbelief choking the air. "Your life? It's a loop, a broken circle. You've died, many times, been rebuilt, erased, replaced." Another photo slid from the wall like a falling leaf. It showed a tiny baby, with James's face, held by a smiling woman. "Claire is not your wife." The stranger's confession dropped like ice. "She's the one who trapped you, the one who created the cycle to survive." James spun, eyes wide, heart slamming. "Me? Trapped? Cycle? Survive?" The man reached out. "Listen to me. You're not a man. You're an experiment. The key to an endless reset. Every you is a copy. Every memory you have was programmed." Tears welled, blurring his vision. "Why?" James whispered, voice breaking. "Because the world is broken," the stranger said, "and you were their solution." Suddenly, The gentle man by the door gasped sharply, hands trembling as his face went pale. "Look!" he yelled. James turned to the wall. Another picture was torn down, revealing a hidden screen beneath. Live feed. The image was horrifyingly clear. A laboratory. Machines hooked to a sleeping body beneath wires. But the body wasn't James. It was him, the stranger, and beside the bed stood someone watching. Claire. Only her face was a mask, her eyes empty, sinister. She turned to the camera, and slowly the mask peeled away. Underneath lay James's face. Not real, the screen echoed in chilling silence. James dropped to his knees, breath shattered, mind fracturing harder than ever. Was he the man in the mirror, or just some broken ghost trapped inside someone else's skin? And Claire, was she a lover, a villain, or something else entirely? The archive faded with a sudden crack, plunging James into darkness. And in that void, one question burned, louder than pain or fear. If none of this is real, who am I fighting anymore? James collapsed into the darkness. The void swallowed him whole. No light, no sound, just cold emptiness pressing from all sides. His chest was tight, his breath shallow, his mind a spinning mess of broken pieces. Who am I? The question echoed, screaming louder than anything before. Suddenly, a sharp snap split the silence. A crack of light tore through the black, harsh and sudden. James blinked against the glare. He wasn't in the cell anymore. He was somewhere else. A hospital room. White walls, sterile and unforgiving. A rhythmic beep filled the air, steady, like a slow heartbeat. James tried to move. His body was weak, wet with sweat, heavy like stone. Then he noticed it. The tubes, the wires, the machines. And him, lying in a hospital bed. But it wasn't just any bed. No, James was strapped down. His own eyes stared back at him. From the bed, alive and awake, but motionless, paralyzed. His breath caught in his throat. He was looking at himself, alive inside a coma, a prisoner inside his own body. His reflection, or was it the real him? The question poisoned every thought. A soft sound drew his attention. From the corner of the room, a figure stepped into the pale light. It was Claire, but not the Claire he remembered. Not the cold woman, not the shining metal. This Claire was fragile, human, worse. She was crying. Her hands trembled as she knelt beside the bed. Her voice shook. "James, please." Her sobs tore a ragged hole through the silence. James's chest squeezed tight. He wanted to reach out, to scream, but he couldn't. Then Claire did something he couldn't believe. She leaned close and whispered, "I'm sorry." The words hit him like a hammer. "I'm the one inside you." James's head snapped up. If only he could move. The stranger, the puppet master. "It's me, all of me, trapped in your mind." Her tears blurred as she continued. "You've been living two lives. This one, here, and the nightmare in your head." Her voice cracked. "While your body lies here, I'm the one who took over. I'm the voice you heard as the stranger, the puppeteer, the virus." James' heart pounded so fast the pain was real. His mind reeled as the truth shattered everything. He wasn't James. Not here. Not really. The man strapped down was the original, the real James. And the one who'd been living his life, watching, changing, fighting, was something else. A fragment, a shadow, a ghost. Claire's sobs turned into whispers. "I tried to hold on, to stay human, but your mind, it's breaking, fractured beyond repair." She buried her face in her hands, and then a sudden jolt clawed through James's chest. His vision blurred, the room tilted hard. The machines screamed alarms, blaring, urgent, deadly. Claire looked up, eyes wide with terror. The monitors flickered. The beeping raced. His head spun as he realized there was no cage in his mind, no endless game. James was the prisoner, and the mind controlling that nightmare was his own, or something worse. Then the door burst open. Doctors rushed in, shouting. Claire vanished, and as they worked on the motionless man, James's fractured mind screamed every warning it had kept silent. Who is real? Who is the stranger? And how long before the nightmare becomes the truth? James's mind screamed as doctors surrounded the motionless man, strapped to the hospital bed. The frantic shouts, the beeping monitors, the hiss of machines, it all pressed in tight, like a weight crushing his chest. Outside the sterile white walls, silence seemed impossible. Claire vanished in a blur. The nurses rushed in, urgency flashing in their eyes. But James couldn't move, couldn't speak. His body was gone. Just cold air where he used to be. Then a sharp crack. A sound too loud, too sudden in this fragile space. The room went still. Head turning, James caught the flash first. A mirror shattered, glass raining to the floor, sharp and loud. And in that broken reflection, he saw something terrifying. Not the hospital ceiling, not the room he thought he was in, but a crowd, faces, hundreds of eyes wide, staring. Whispers filled the air. "She's gone. Who's next? Cover it up." Panic twisted James's gut. The voices weren't real. They were echoes, memories stirring from somewhere deep and dark. But they felt like they were pressing through the glass, touching the edges of his mind. Suddenly, the face of a woman slammed into view, sharp, angry, colder than the darkest night. It was Claire. But not the broken person James had seen. This Claire was different, reshaped, ruthless. She stepped forward into the crowd, pulling back a hood to reveal not human skin, but metal, faceless, untouchable. Her voice cut through the tension, cruel and clear. "I never left." James's breath caught. His heart slammed against his ribs like a wild drum. The scene shattered again. The hospital faded. Gone. Now he was somewhere else. A courtroom, lit by harsh spotlights and buzzing cameras. James sat on the stand, shackled. Muted gasps from the crowd. A flashing headline lit the dark walls. James Carter, fraud, monstrous betrayal exposed. Voices crashed over each other. Arrest him. He's been cheating us all. His empire, built on lies. James's eyes darted to the judge, cold, impassive. Then his lawyer leaned in, pale and shaking. James, you need to listen. There's been a twist. Before he could speak, a hush erupted. The prosecutor stood, holding up a photograph. It was grainy but unmistakable. James, smiling, holding hands with Claire. But the shock wasn't that. The shock was what they were holding. A baby, transparent through the image, but there. And the headline flashed again. Illegal adoption, child trafficking ring revealed. James's throat tightened, dry and raw. No, he gasped, voice breaking. The prosecutor's face twisted, cold as ice. This baby is evidence against you. Suddenly, the courtroom screens flickered, and on every screen, there was a live feed. Not from a street, not from a hidden camera, but from inside James's hospital room. And on the bed lay not the man they called James Carter, but a different man, older, silent, strapped, yes, but alive, eyes open and staring straight at them. The crowd gasped, a wave of disbelief ripping through every soul. The judge slammed the gavel. Order! This changes everything. James's stomach dropped. He shook his head. What is this? Suddenly, the doors burst open. The cold woman, the one from the cell, stepped in calm as ever. Her voice was low, deadly. You're not James Carter. He is. Everyone turned. Breath caught. She pulled off a mask. Beneath it, a face. The real James Carter. The man on the hospital bed had been a copy, a lie. James's world crumbled. His voice barely a whisper. Who am I? The real James smiled, an edge of sorrow and something darker. You are the project, the ghost, the virus, and I'm here to take back what's mine. The courtroom exploded into chaos. James stumbled, feeling his identity shatter like glass. The past, the present, they blurred, and through it all echoed the cold woman's final line. This story, it's bigger than you thought. James's mind tore open in panic. If he wasn't who he said, who was he? And if the real James Carter was alive, then what did that mean for the life, the lies, the nightmare they'd all been living? The answer hovered. Impossible, terrifying. Who was the monster, and who was the man? James's eyes burned with disbelief as the courtroom spiraled into chaos. The real James, calm and cold, stood tall amid the storm of shouted accusations and flashing cameras. And James, the copy, the ghost, felt his world crumbling, piece by painful piece. But then the old man by the defense table raised his voice. Enough! Silence slammed down like a heavy door. I am the custodian of the truth here, the man said, voice steady but firm. This story, this twisted, broken story, has one final twist. All eyes locked on him. James's breath hitched. In truth, there is no real or copy. There is only what we choose to remember. This endless loop, this fractured identity, they stem from a secret project. A mind locked inside a failed experiment, desperate to shape its own reality. He gestured to the real James. The man you see, he's a fragment too. And the man you know, lost in shadows, is no less real. James's heart pounded harder than ever, chest tight as a vice. Claire, the old man continued, nodding toward the figure watching from the gallery, was never the enemy. She was the tie that held this shattered soul together, a guardian in the storm, fighting to keep whatever was left alive. Claire's eyes met James's for a long second, soft and full of sorrow. His hand twitched. The key burned cold now in his pocket, a silent witness to everything. But the truth, the man said, voice dropping, is this. The enemy isn't one person. It's the cage itself. The prison of broken memories and lies we built around him. The courtroom murmured, tension thick like fog. Then slowly, the real James stepped forward. His voice cracked, but held weight. I don't want to fight anymore. Not with shadows. Not with ghosts. He reached out his hand to James. A tension snapped. A quiet hope flared. James hesitated, fingers trembling, before locking hands with the real James. Something fragile, yet fierce, flickered in that touch. Claire exhaled, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. Outside the courtroom windows, rain began to fall, soft, cleansing. The noise faded for a moment. Whispers replaced shouts. A new chapter whispered, waiting to be written. James swallowed hard. His mind wobbled but steadied. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start, not the end. The real enemy was never outside. It was the war inside their minds, and now the fight was theirs together. The door behind them creaked open again. But this time, it was quiet. James looked up. A new face appeared in the shadows, smiling, waiting. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. Now, you need to subscribe right now so you don't miss a single twist in this insane story. Hit that red button immediately. Smash the like button. Don't hold back. This is the moment to show your support and blow up the algorithm. Flood the comments with your wildest theories and emotions about this ending. I want to know what you think. Every single reaction matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see how it all ends. Only true fans understand why this is so important. Trust me, this is just the beginning. Stay close.